Hello friends. Hi. Today is our Independence Day. We gained freedom after nearly 200 years of struggle. There were lakhs and lakhs of people who sacrificed themselves for the freedom of our country. Today, I will tell you some such amazing facts about our country. Let's start now. India always has attracted foreigners, especially from the European countries. India has attracted foreigners because of its wealth and spices. European countries like Portuguese started coming to India from the start of 15th century. They came in India as traders, but later on they ruled over India. India mostly was ruled by the Britishers from the 18th century. By that time, the Mughal power had become weak. The French arrived in India after the first half of the 17th century. Surat was a very populous city at that time when the French arrived. The French reached at the port of Surat and occupied every part of the city Surat. Surat was the capital of the French state. Later on in the 18th century, when the French left Surat and occupied Pondicherry, so the Pondicherry was now the headquarters of the French. The British rule begins. The British too came to India as traders, but we all know what happened next. The Carnatic Wars. There were three Carnatic Wars fought between 1746 and 1763. These wars were fought mainly between the French and the British. After the Third Carnatic War, the result was that the Britishers now ruled almost the whole India. The Anglo-Mysore Wars. The Anglo-Mysore Wars were a series of wars fought between the Mysore kings and the Britishers, in which, of course, the Britishers won. How did the Anglo-Maratha Wars help the Britishers? There were three wars fought between the Marathas and the British. The first war was fought between the Marathas themselves. The British took an advantage of the opportunity and supported the winning side. After the second war, three major treaties were signed, in which the Britishers gained a small island near Bombay. The third war led to complete downfall of the Maratha Empire, and this was that the whole India came under the rule of British, the trigger for struggle. By the 1850s, the British were firm rulers of India. In this period, many rebellions take place. This is called the period of trigger. Mangal Pandey. Freedom is not a free offer. Fight for it. These are the famous words of Mangal Pandey. After failure of many rebellions, all Indians decided to come together and fight. This is known as the First War of Independence. It took place from 1857 to 1859. In 1853, there was a new technique to load a rifle. Soldiers had to bite a cartridge open and pour the gunpowder into the rifle's muzzle. Indian soldiers heard that the cartridge was greased with pork and cow's fat. This technique was known as Enfield rifle musket. This technique was against both the Hindu and Muslim religious beliefs. A total 853 soldiers denied the new technique. Rani Lakshmi Bai. Rani Lakshmi Bai was ruler of Jhansi, a princely state in North India. She played a leading role in the First War of Independence. She encouraged women in shooting, horsemanship, and fencing. Because of her, the Britishers had sleepless nights. She was a true inspiration for all the Indians. Lights in Darkness. Partition of Bengal. In 1905, Lord Curzon, the British head, decided to divide Bengal into two. The Britishers claimed that we are doing this for a political purpose. They divided Bengal into eastern part and western part. The Bengalis knew that the Britishers are planning something new. This is how Bangladesh was created, and today we know it as West Bengal and East Pakistan. The battle begins. The Kakori train robbery. This train robbery was planned and executed on August 1925. Members of Hindustan Socialist Republic Association planned this robbery. Many was looted from the mail train of Kakori near Lucknow. Then takes place the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre involves in killing hundreds of people. This took place in April 1919. It took place in Amritsar, the holiest city of Sikhs. Hundreds were killed. This incident rose a protest across a grieving country wanting freedom. So, this is a very famous incident in the Indian history and will be always remembered. Now, I am telling you a personality. The name of the personality is Bhagat Singh. We all hear patriotic stories of Bhagat Singh, so we know Bhagat Singh. Bhagat Singh formed a union of revolutionary by name Naujawan Bharat. Bhagat Singh went on a hunger strike because when he was in jail, all the people were served dirty food or food that is 2 to 3 days old. Bhagat was sentenced to death on 23rd March 1931 at a tender age of 23. That day is known as Martyrs' Day. His sacrifice will be remembered forever. Veer Savarkar. Savarkar, popularly known as Veer Savarkar. He was passionate about winning freedom from the British and boycotting foreign goods. He decided not to speak a single English word. He protested against the British. He was sentenced to 50 years jail, but later he was released and spent his whole life as a social worker. A new era. After a great contribution in 1914 in the World War I, India was expecting freedom, but that didn't happen. This rose a protest in the country, the Dandi March. Britain's Salt and Act prohibited Indians from collecting or selling salt. On 12th March 1930, Gandhi ji set out of his ashram with his followers towards the Sabarmati river and to a small town known as Dandi. At the end of this Dandi march, there were thousands of people following Gandhi. The final battle, the Quit India movement. The Quit India movement was launched on 8th August 1942. The Britishers were prepared for a massive uprising by the Indians. Protesters were arrested, tortured, their homes were destroyed or burnt. The Quit India movement became rudderless. The long-awaited dream of Indians, the dawn of freedom. The birth of an independent India was a long-awaited dream. It finally happened. It was a tinged sadness because by then the country has been divided into two equal parts. The British knew that they could not fight a united India, so they followed the divide and rule policy. Please like, share and subscribe. Vande Mataram. Bye bye.